Hello again and welcome to Money Tips. This is Charles Kelly, bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate and enjoy more money. Hi to everyone on Facebook Live. Thanks for joining me again. Appreciate your presence and appreciate your comments as well. So keep sending those in. And yeah, it's great to see you. And thanks for everyone who tunes in on my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or reads my blogs on moneytipsdaily.com. Today I want to ask you a question. Do you have the energy it takes to succeed? Now, I've read thousands of books and articles on success. I've listened to thousands of podcasts, CDs, audios, even cassettes. Remember cassettes? I used to have cassette collections of Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and people like that. So I've listened to a lot of stuff and read. I've got a whole library of books. I've given away boxes of books. I just haven't got room for them. And in these books, that they're always talking about the 7 traits of this or the 10 traits of that or the 13 principles of success. But out of all these books, I very rarely hear the word energy mentioned. Now, out of most of the people I've read about, the person that I know that has said you need energy. That this the one person I know that has said, when he was asked why he was successful, he said, you need energy to succeed in any endeavour. And that person is Lord Archer, Lord Jeffrey Archer. Now, he's a bit of an infamous character because he's had his ups and downs in the UK, and I'll tell you more about him. But the fact is, he is, one of the biggest selling authors in this country, multi-million selling author. He wrote books like Cain and Abel and that sort of thing, which was made into a TV series. He's also a former MP. He's obviously a Lord of the House of Lords. And he was an athlete in his early days, so maybe that's where he gets his energy from. In an interview, he said that you need a lot of energy to be successful in any endeavour, and he cited his own example of how he made it back after losing all of his money on the stock market. He was given bad advice by a stockbroker, which is another reason why you should be educated about money yourself rather than listening to stockbrokers. Anyway, after this time, he recalled he had to get a job and work all day, work long hours, and then in the evening, and at weekends, he would write books. And this is how he wrote his book. And that took a lot of energy. And most authors, they don't sort of have the luxury in their first couple of books to sort of go away on some island or some retreat to write a book. They have to do it in between, their spare time. So while most of us are watching TV, they're there beavering away and writing their book or running their spare time business on the side or whatever, or they're studying or they're doing something useful to improve themselves in the evenings and the weekends. That's sort of what you might call downtime. So it took a lot of energy and drive to do what he did, and he mentioned this in, I think it's a very important point, because if you come home from work, and obviously people come home from work, they're tired, they've perhaps travelled a long way, they've stood on a train for an hour. And, if you just slump down in front of the TV and say, oh, God, I can't do any more, I've just had it. And you've got a beer in the hand and, you just want to watch something on television. If that was Jeffrey Archer, there's no way he could have written those best-selling books, which have made him, tens of millions of pounds. Literally, he's a multi-millionaire. Now, I've met Jeffrey Archer on a couple of occasions, and, despite his advancing years, I think when I met him, he must have been over 70. But he's someone with tremendous energy and charisma. He stands straight. He's got a strong voice. He's got this booming voice, and he's quite posh when he speaks. But he projects his voice out. You can hear him, across the room. He's got what I would call energy and charisma. He sort of lights up the room. Now you can hear it in his voice. You can see the energy. You can see that twinkle in his eye. He's very flirtatious with women, and the guys. He has a joke with them, but he's very instantly kind of likable. He's got that twinkle in his eye. You can almost feel his energy and his vibrational force. Now, he has what people might used to call a magnetic personality. Some people talk about this vibrational force and things like, The Secret and that sort of thing. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but there is something in it. There's something in that vibrational force that you can almost feel in people. And you can feel a positive vibrational force. You can also feel a negative vibrational force. And Jeffrey has definitely got that, that oomph about him, and he's got something there. I saw him once at a charity event, and he was doing the auctioneering for, to raise money for this charity. He was doing a sort of auctioning quite expensive items. So it was in the Grosvenor House, and it was, you know, a lot of well-heeled people there, and it was quite an expensive event. So people there were expected to have money, and they were bidding for things like, you know, a guitar signed by Eric Clapton, or a football signed by the England football, you know, whatever. It was all this kind of stuff, unique stuff, and he really took a lot of money in that. I think he took over a couple of £200,000 in that auction, because he was, when he'd get a bid, so he got £1,000 over there, he walked over to another table and said, "You're not going to let them do that, are you? Come on, we need a better bid than that." And he really got the crowd going, and he created a lot of excitement and energy in the room, and consequently the bids were coming in thick and fast, and he said, "Come on," and he had the tables bidding against each other. It was fantastic. I've never seen anything like it. He was just brilliant, and and I said he was already in his 70s at that time, and he just had enormous amounts of energy. Now, not long after, when I met him, actually, that was around about the time he'd been released from prison, because he had a bit of a checkered career, Jeffrey. He tends to sail a bit close to the wind, and one of the newspapers did a story about him, something about a liaison with a lady of, let's say, dubious character, and he went against the paper. He tried to sue the paper, but it turned out he said something in court. He maybe allegedly lied in court, and that's perjury. So they went after him, and I think they jailed him for 3 or 4 years. It was quite a long sentence for, you know, just for lying in court. You know, a lot of people have violent crimes and burglaries, and they don't get in jail for it. But he was put away, and you know, most people after that, you know, if you've had that shame, you know, you've been outed with a lady of dubious character, you know, and he's got his wife Mary at home, and you know, it was a great scandal in its day, and you know, he went to jail, and you'd think that he would crumble. You'd think he would just, you know, crumble up and just wither away, you know, but not Jeffrey. He actually made something out of it. He turned it to his advantage, and when he came out, he was promoting a book, a collection of stories, I think it was called Cat of Nine Tails, that he wrote while he was in prison. So he was talking to people in prison, probably getting stories from them, and he wrote this book, and I've actually got a signed copy of it with him, but it's great. So he came out, and literally, instead of trying to hide the fact he was in prison, here's my book about it, you know, fantastic. And so he may have his flaws. He certainly had an up and down political career, but he's certainly one of those characters, and he has achieved a great deal in his life. Now, when I think of other successful people I know personally, they all have one thing in common. Yeah, you could say lots of things in common, but the one thing that stands out for me is energy. You know, they're up in the morning, they're out and about, they're what you might call go-getters, you know, people that got a lot of go in them, have got a lot of oomph in them. You know, they're doing things. Even at weekends, you're more likely to see them doing something active rather than sleeping on the couch. You know, if you just pop into their house, they'd be maybe doing some DIY, or they're doing some paperwork, or they're doing something in the garden. You know, they're generally not sitting around and slouching around. Now, many of them, they've said to me things like, well, they actually find it hard to keep still. You know, that if they're sitting down, their legs shaking. It's like they've got that battery, that Duracell battery. They can't stop. You know, so there's something about them. And it's not just physical energy, it's mental energy as well. You know, you need mental energy to think about ideas, to think through things. You need mental energy to, you know, dream up things, to write them down, to put them into action, to study, to read things. You know, I mean, it takes a lot of energy to come back from a disappointment, for instance. You know, that mental toughness, that mental resolve. And I think, you know, you need mental energy to come back from things, to bounce back from things, to keep going when things don't always go your way. It's easy to say, oh God, you know, things have got my way. Oh no, I can't make it now. That's it. That's the end of it. You know, but no, if you've got that mental energy, you can keep going. I mean, it takes energy to write a book, you know, to write a good CV, to keep submitting those CVs, to read a contract thoroughly, you know, to read a 60-page contract. You know, it takes energy to go through that. You know, a lot of people just sign a contract and don't even read it. All these things take energy. You know, it takes energy to go to meetings in the evenings. This is what a lot of successful people in politics have done. You know, they've been going to meetings for years. They attend meetings, they attend events, they attend conferences. They make sure they're there helping out. They're helping with canvassing. They're knocking on doors. And then people say, oh, why did he become an MP? Well, he's probably, or he or she has probably been working at it for a long time to build the contacts, to build the experience. So it takes energy to do these things. It takes energy to, do things in the evening when you've done a hard day's work, or, attend training events at the weekend to improve your knowledge and skills. It takes these things. Not everyone can do it. Most people don't read a book after leaving school. Only about 10% of people ever take a course or do any extra learning after they leave school or university. So all of this takes energy. So where does it come from? Are we born with it? Is it God-given, or can we create energy? Can we create our own energy? Now, I think there's no doubt that some people are definitely born with enormous amounts of energy, talent and drive. But that doesn't always guarantee success. I know a lot of people that had everything going for them. They had all the talent and energy. They were unbelievable, but they wasted it. They wasted it just having a good time, really. And, getting into drinking and drugs and things like that. So a lot of people with energy can't control it. They can't direct it. And sometimes these people go off the rails completely. So you need more than energy. But there's no doubt that some people do seem to have it, and a lot of billionaires have tremendous energy and drive. You think of people like Branson, Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, Sir James Goldsmith, were all blessed with massive amounts of energy. I've read about their life. They had tremendous appetite and drive. They just wanted to keep going. They weren't happy with 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. They were always doing the next deal, and it's like they're unstoppable, literally like that. They seem to be able to burn the candle at both ends, work long hours, travel around the world, do long days, and then get up the next morning, do another long day. They had tremendous. I mean, so James Goldsmith, for instance, I've read about him. He's a very interesting guy if you want to read about him. Famously had he had two women on the go, didn't he? He had his wife in Richmond, Lady Annabel, and she's the mother of Zach Goldsmith, the MP for Richmond, and Jemima Goldsmith. Remember her? She was married to Imran Khan. Is she Jemima Khan now? I don't know. And he openly, in addition to that, he openly kept a mistress in Paris, for years. And he once said that if you marry your mistress, you're creating a vacancy. So that was him. So he had his faults as well. But someone who built. He was a billionaire, a long time ago when a billionaire was a billionaire. When that really meant something. And literally, he became a billionaire and did some tremendous deals. He famously also sold everything just before the great 87 crash, and he advised all his friends to sell up everything. He sold all his properties and his companies, and then the market just tumbled, and then he came back even stronger. Donald Trump, for instance, he's a guy with energy. You may not like Donald Trump, but he's in his 70s. I mean, to run for president, that takes energy, right? You can't just turn up for a couple of meetings. You're on the road all the time, and you have to stand there and answer questions and speak with energy. That takes a hell of a lot of energy, and a lot of younger people half his age wouldn't be able to do that. I think one of his ex-wives once said that his idea of downtime was reading the Wall Street Journal on a treadmill. That's the kind of guy he is. He's a non-stop, person with energy. In his best-selling book, Think and Grow Rich, I've mentioned this many times before, by Napoleon Hill. I think I might have a copy of it here. Here's my old copy of Think and Grow Rich with some of my notes. Yeah, that's one I bought in the Philippines many years ago. It's almost falling apart now. But in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he talks about energy in a different way. He said that successful people have charisma and high sex drives. He said they've got high sex drives, and but some of them control it, others don't. And he added that if you control the sex drive. They call it sex transmutation. I think he called it sex transmutation. That is literally transmuting or directing the sexual energy you have into something useful. It's a strange chapter. But get the book and have a look at it. But there's something there, and that's about energy as well. And interestingly, the billionaire Charlie Munger, the partner of Warren Buffett, and he attributes their success to the fact that they like, what did he say? He said their success is partly due to the fact that they enjoyed and followed their time reading company reports and looking at companies rather than, as he put it, chasing chorus girls. he said if we spent our time chasing chorus girls, it could have been very different. So obviously they had a lot of energy in their day, and Warren Buffett is still working. I think he's 80s or 90s or something. He's still going, still goes to work every day, drives himself, all that sort of stuff. So they've still got the energy, but they found something they really want to do and followed that. In effect, he was confirming Napoleon Hill's observations, but he was also confirming that you need something else to be successful and have energy. So where does it come from? Well, as I said, there's an element of natural ability and energy, just like an athlete born with, you find athletes sometimes are just born with speed or agility. When you're at school, I'm sure there was the kid who was the fastest runner or the best footballer or something like that. They just seem to have it, don't they? They can play any ball game, they can just do something. So you could see it in sports. Then there was a kid who could, who was ahead of you in reading and, was a brilliant at maths or whatever. So sometimes you do have these natural talents, and sometimes you can see it in children. You can see a brother and another brother with completely different levels of energy, but it's just something about it. But not everyone can be, completely unique and have that tremendous energy. So someone like Michael Phelps or the 3 times Olympic champion Usain Bolt, not everyone's going to have that level of energy, but you can have. Everyone's got other energy. They've got, they're not all going to have the energy of, say, a billionaire, super energetic guy like Steve Jobs or someone like that, or Elon Musk. Not everyone's got that, but you can certainly get quite high up there with the energy that you've got. And one trait about, people with energy is that they do have a passion for something. Successful people have a passion and are extremely passionate about what they do. And this in turn gives them more energy and more drive because they love what they're doing, right? Can you see what I mean? Now, if you're doing something you hate, like you're in a job and you just hate that job, you're not going to put much energy into it, are you? So if you're in a job right now and you really hate that job, are you really going to give it your full passion and your full drive? No, and you just won't feel like it. You'll be like, oh my God, that's the way you'll feel on that Monday morning. So if you're not blessed with this super high energy and drive, it's not all bad news, because I think you can be successful without being a billionaire. Not everyone's going to be a billionaire. There's only a few hundred billionaires in the world, but there are millions of millionaires and multi-millionaires. So you don't have to have super energy, but you can do things to give yourself more energy in life. And one of them is passion. The other is looking after yourself, getting enough sleep, eating the right foods, and taking regular exercises, looking after your body and your mind. Find something you're passionate about, follow that passion. I don't mean giving up your job and saying, right, my passion is this or that, I'm going to walk in and resign. But doing something you want. Jeffrey Archer did follow his passion, but he did it in his spare time first, and then when he got successful, he could write full time. And we could all find energy to do the things we love. Like if we follow a hobby, if you love playing golf at the weekend, you can find energy to do 4 hours of golf and walk 5 or 6 miles, or going out with your friends, or doing something you really like doing, or travelling. So the energy is there within you. It's finding your energy and getting it going, getting it motivating yourself, in other words. So we can all find energy to do the things we love. So it is there. It's not something you have to get from outside. It's not like you have to plug yourself into something like an electric car. You've got the energy there. And have you ever noticed, for instance, when you're on a weekend, if you have a lazy day, these lazy days where you sit around, you watch Columbo on TV, and you're just there, and at the end of the day, you feel more tired, don't you? You feel, oh my God, you feel exhausted. You feel more tired doing that than you do if you're having a busy day at work, when you're closing deals and you're dashing around and having meetings, But on that lazy day, you feel, and this is because our bodies were designed for movement, and they want to be moving. And the more you move, the more energy you have, right? So if you start moving, you just seem to have energy. If you go to the gym afterwards, you feel good, right? If you go for a walk, you feel good after that. You don't feel more tired. So movement creates energy, and look at it this way: people with high energy also tend to have a fairly positive attitude. I don't mean they're happy clappy, but they generally have a positive, forward-looking outlook, and they generally have a pleasing personality. Jeffrey Archer was like that. He was, everyone liked him. He was happy, he was smiling, and I think that is a trait I've seen with people I know with high energy and people who are successful, they seem to kind of lift you up, and they literally can light up a room when they walk into the room, and they almost the energy in the room changes with their positive energy. On the other hand, people with low negative energy seem to sap you. They drain your energy, right? If you've ever got a friend like that, they always talk about their problems, and they drain you, right? And after they leave, you just feel like, oh my God, you feel like hanging yourself, and they go off and they've unloaded all their crap onto you. Those are the people you want to avoid. So they exhaust you, they bring you down, they bring the energy in the room down. They complain about how bad things are. They talk about their problems. They talk about how they've got no opportunity. I've got no opportunity. What's that? There's no opportunity in the country. I've got, these kids who live on these estates. They've got no opportunity. They've got no opportunity, which is absolute rubbish. Migrants come from all over the world, just to come here and live here, just to get here, just to get on UK soil, because they know it's a land of opportunity, right? I've seen migrant families live on the worst council estates in London, and yet they've been successful. Their children have become doctors and lawyers. They're not out in gangs. They're at home doing their homework and working towards success. So, this is a land of opportunity, but low energy people, they just can't see it, or they want it handed to them on a plate. They just want to stay on benefits and have everything handed to them. So I don't accept that. I mean, there are people that I guess they're the people that you might see in a party that no one wants to talk to, because they've pissed everybody off. No one wants to talk to them. They're in the corner on their own. These are the low energy people. Now, I'd say, as a final point, really, if you want to have energy, if you want to be successful in life, then stop pissing about, basically. Stop pissing about and wasting time. The founders of Microsoft, your Bill Gates and your Facebook and Google, they started their companies when they're very young, and I think they were at university at the time, and I'm not sure they even finished university because they'd gone beyond that. But they couldn't have become that successful if they'd spent all their time partying and drinking, right? If they'd spent their 3 or 4 years at university just messing around, they wouldn't have become successful. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg, I think, developed Facebook as a way of meeting girls on the campus. It was literally that. But he wasn't out partying. Seriously, he was a bit of a nerd. But it shows you that these guys use their time in a different way. Same with Steve Jobs. Even as a teenager, he was using his time effectively. So you've got to stop pissing about if you want to make it. And the other thing is about using your time, right? There's an old saying: if you want to give a job, give it to a busy man, busy woman, whatever. This is someone who's already coping with a lot of work. You have it in offices. If you see the people who are coping with the most work, they tend to get the promotions, they get the extra work, and they seem to cope with it. They've got the energy. On the face of it, it doesn't seem to make sense. Why would you give more stuff to people who are already busy? And that's because they're already coping, and busy people are usually successful, they're organised, and they're focused on a task, and they're driven. Unsuccessful people are invariably disorganised, they're unfocused, they're lethargic, they're negative, they've got low energy. If you ask them to do something, they'll say, I don't have the time, I'm too busy doing this, and even people who are unsuccessful and not working, they're unemployed, they don't have the time to clean their house, they don't have time to clean their front gardens, or wash their cars, or make themselves more presentable, or get dressed in the morning. It's that downward cycle they're in. Of course, a lot of actual physical energy is also in your mind. Like I said, when you have a passion for something like a hobby, you don't lack energy. But if you have that Monday morning feeling when you're going to work, or that Sunday night feeling before the Monday morning, you just feel, oh God, that's because probably you hate your job. I know a guy who's a successful accountant. He hates his job. He hates going to work. I've been there on a Sunday in his house, and he said, "Oh, I've got to go to work tomorrow." Yet he's highly paid, working in the city. He just literally hates his job. I don't know why he doesn't retire, but that's the way it is, right? But on the other hand, I know a lot of people. I'm in Rotary, for instance, and people in Rotary they tend to be a bit older. Let's put it that way, and a lot of them. In our club anyway, there's some in their 70s, 80s and even 90s, and they all have energy because they have a purpose in life. This is why they're in Rotary. Some of them have been retired now for 20 or 30 years, but they've got this purpose to do something for others. And one of them, in fact, he plays golf every week. He's 95. He's a retired doctor, and he looks after his sick wife, but he sits straight. He's got a firm handshake. He speaks with energy, and he plays golf every week. He walks around. He's not in a buggy. He walks around. Okay, he might do 9 holes instead of 18, but he's always cheerful. He's always smiling. A great guy. Another one is involved in several charitable organisations. He even sings opera at a local society. He does loads and loads of things. Very positive guy. Hardly ever sick, and he's 90 odd now. And the thing they know is that they know people who retired at 65 and did nothing, sat around watching, on the couch, watching daytime television, and they know that if they did that, they wouldn't be around now. They'd probably be in hospital or dead. So another friend of mine, he's 81. He's got amazing energy. He still works part-time doing some in-store demonstrations and exhibitions. He's a very good salesman. He's a very likeable guy, approachable guy, and recently found a new lease of life, and this is doing some film extra work. So he goes and does commercials and film extra work, and he's busier now than ever, and he's getting up at 6 a.m. doing these shoots all over the place, but he loves it. He loves being around young people. He loves being around people with energy as well. And he told me that, when he sits around on a quiet day, he just feels tired and lethargic, like I was saying. But when he's out filming and perhaps standing around all day, maybe in the cold, he feels full of energy, and he does selfies, and he's meeting celebrities, and he's really having a great time, and he's earning some money as well. He recently flew off to Serbia. Had to go flying out to Serbia for a couple of days. Had a tiring schedule, but he was out there. He was taking selfies and having a great time, and it didn't matter. But he's on early flights and that sort. This guy has really got it, and he could go on like that for years. And it's almost like, and he's had his illnesses, he's had his sicknesses, but he doesn't care about that. He just keeps going, and he has that energy. So there you go. That's what I can say about energy. So let me ask you again. Do you have the energy to succeed? Well, the answer is yes, you do. And it's up to you to find your energy, find your passion, harness it, and use it properly. Transmute it, as you say, use it properly, and use it to your advantage. So there you go. There you have everything you need. You just need energy, and you can succeed. Find your energy, use it, and go for it. Thanks for listening. This has been Charles Kelly, bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate, and enjoy more money. Check out my book when you can. Yes, Money Can Buy You Happiness on Amazon. Thanks very much.